Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, over 3 million people affected by Cyclone Idai across southern Africa. The devastation prompts calls for more climate change preparedness from Africa. Meanwhile, Mozambique confirms its first cholera case amongst the displaced. Also, as Algeria's army wins more establishment support for the suggestion that President Bouteflika be sidelined on the grounds of health, agri-protesters continue to hit the streets, saying that they want to see more political change than just the exit of the ailing leader. And Lady of the Waves. As Senegal hosts West Africa's first ever qualifying round of the World Surf League, we meet one athlete trying to lead the way for women in a sport that, on the continent at least, is still dominated by men. But first, the damage caused by Cyclone Idai last week is prompting calls from climate scientists for African governments to embed the threat posed by climate change into public policy. There's a need for more long-term emergency coordination and the building of more resilient infrastructure. Nearly 3 million people have been affected by last week's storm in southern Africa. Over 700 have been killed across Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. Over 500,000 people have been displaced, and the World Health Organization is bracing for a health crisis in overcrowded shelters. Mozambique has confirmed cholera cases. Our correspondents report.
As Mozambicans grapple with the aftermath of a devastating cyclone, a race against the clock to prevent a second disaster, the spread of waterborne diseases. Several cases of cholera have already been confirmed in the city of Beira. This resident of the Munhava neighborhood is worried about the fate of his brother.
He has cholera. He vomited for the first time.
How is the situation inside the hospital? Are there many people like your brother?
Many people.
Mozambique's director of health has warned it is highly likely the disease will spread beyond the currently confirmed cases.
Cholera is an epidemic situation. You see, when you have one case, you have to expect that you will have more cases in the community. Therefore, the health workers are there in the communities, work hard with communities, how to organize them, how to prevent, how to treat water and everything to prevent the spread of the cholera.
Cholera is an acute diarrheal disease that spreads in water or food sources that have been contaminated by the feces of an infected person. It can develop quickly in places where people do not have access to clean drinking water and consequently turn to contaminated water sources to survive. The disease can kill within hours if left untreated. Later this week, the World Health Organization will dispatch 900,000 doses of cholera vaccines to the affected areas.
In Algeria, Tuesday's call from the Army Chief of Staff for a constitutional provision called Article 102 to be invoked to declare President Abdelaziz Bouteflika unfit for office has won heavyweight establishment support. 82-year-old Bouteflika has been in office since 1999, but has rarely been seen in public since he suffered a stroke in 2013. There have been weeks of fierce protests against the prospect of him remaining in power for much longer. On Wednesday, the ruling FLN party joined Algeria's biggest union and another party from the ruling coalition in backing the removal of Bouteflika on health grounds. However, demonstrators continued to rally, saying that they want more than just the presidency to change.
We went out today to reject Article 102. We want the clique who are stealing our money to be held to account, not to cover it up.
This article could have been used as soon as he had his stroke, so why suddenly wait until 6 years later to trigger it? But in fact, I think this is not a good solution. It means that the will of the people has not been respected because the motto was clear and precise. The claims are clear, and they are for the removal of the entire system.
This is the end of the solution, because it's too late. The ship has sailed. It's been 7 or 8 years that we are waiting for a change. Now it's a popular uprising. Before in 1990 it was a party uprising, and now it's a popular uprising. And the popular uprising is demanding the departure of the whole government.
Landslide re-election of Comoros President Azali Assoumani has been slammed by his opposition as fraudulent. Azali's victory was announced on Tuesday after polls held last Sunday. Runner-up candidate Mahamadou Ahamada from the Jua party says that the win was deeply suspect. International observers also questioned the credibility of the exercise. Critics of Azali accuse him of acting like a dictator and of doing little to tackle social inequality.
You should see the state of our hospitals, the state of our schools, the state of Comorians' everyday lives. I'm not really interested in Azali's re-election. I care about the lives of Comorians, which continue to deteriorate every day. The solutions in Comoros must not be political. They must be economic. We're in a region where almost all the countries are developed and all the countries are moving forward. Yet we are starting over and over again. Every day there's an election. And I'm sure that's hindering the development of Comoros.
Zimbabwe's been wrestling with a deepening economic crisis that's led to huge price hikes for food and fuel. Desperate for supplies, some Zimbabweans have been paying drivers to buy goods in neighbouring South Africa, where things are much cheaper. Now, the transporters allegedly run a shady but lucrative business. Nicolas Chemin tells us more.
These men don't want their faces to be filmed. They are Zimbabweans who buy goods in South Africa and then sell them in their homeland. Inflation has reached 50% in Zimbabwe. So more and more customers are placing their orders with these drivers via WhatsApp. Sometimes the men transport petrol despite the risk of explosions.
Petrol, if petrol is expensive that side, they want to take it from the side. So it depends with what is expensive that side. But most as we are dealing with Crossal, we know we carry Crossal too much. For the Crossal we carry too much.
Their vehicles are often overloaded. To cross the border, they have to pay bribes to customs officers who have very low wages in Zimbabwe. Most goods arrive in the town of Bulawayo, be it coffins or toilet paper. Locals say they have no choice but to buy from these transporters.
This year, the situation is worse than before. For example, a bar of soap that used to cost $1 is now $4. A 2-kilo pack of washing powder is now $12.
While Zimbabwe's economy has floundered in recent months, the transporters say their business has grown by up to 30%.
Now, starting from Wednesday, Dakar hosted surfers from around the world. It's the first time a qualifying round of the World Surf League is being held in West Africa. Dubbed as one of the best surf spots on the continent, Senegal's attracting more and more surfers thanks to its year-round waves. Our correspondent met with one of the few Senegalese women that ride the waves in a still predominantly male sport.
Like every day for the last 10 years, Hadju heads to one of Dakar's beaches where she practices her favourite sport. This morning the waves are small, but not enough to put her off.
I love surfing so much. I feel like a dolphin or a mermaid in the water. When I'm in the water, I let everything go.
The young woman has turned her passion into her job. She was 13 when she discovered surfing. Today, she's an instructor at this surf school.
My uncle was a surfer, my cousin also surfed, and I thought, why don't I try surfing, because there were never any girls, just white girls. At first it was a bit difficult, because there weren't many girls out surfing, some families didn't like it, and people would judge.
Today her entire family supports and encourages her to follow her heart, which last year won her a scholarship to train in the United States.
We are so happy. We wish for her to make it even further than the US, so she can make a good living for herself and help her whole family.
Ram, pulse, take off. Anchor.
To encourage more Senegalese girls to take up surfing, Hadju trains them for free. She even provides their boards and equipment to make the sport easier to take up.
My goal is to help young women who have just started surfing to represent Senegal one day and represent other African women.
Yes, I want to be a champion. A world champion.
Hadju has her sights set on representing Senegal one day in an international championship.
Well, Kenya's welcomed back one of the best teachers in the world. Science teacher Peter Tabichi won $1 million last weekend when he was awarded the Vaki Foundation's Global Teacher Prize in Dubai. He says that he'll be investing much of that money into projects for the community in the village in the Rift Valley where he works. The Franciscan friars called on his continent to plough more resources into shaping and educating its youth.
In the first place, I did not expect it, and therefore it was really a great moment, not just for me, but for Kenya, for Africa, and all teachers, my students who struggle every single day with so many challenges. They don't have facilities, and yet they are able to really do very great things.
Well said. Well, that's it, though, for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us. Do so again if you can. Take care.